Early medieval Britain. It's a mysterious land of warlords and saints. Particularly in the 5th, 6th and early 7th centuries, eking out an existence in the post-Roman twilight. It's a time of conquering kingdoms, of settler societies, and just a handful of literate leftovers from the classical world, attempting to hold on to some sort of semblance of the world that came before. This is the usual narrative anyway, favoured due to a lack of written sources and the clear shift in archaeology from the colonnades and temples of the Roman world to the wattle and daub mead halls and burial mounds that came after. But now, in 2020, one site in the hills of what is now Scotland holds the potential for changing that narrative just a little. For here, high up on a hill called Tappernothe, close to the village of Rinny, home now to just a few hundred people, archaeologists from Aberdeen University found a settlement that shouldn't exist. A hilltop citadel, once home to thousands of people. Settled by the most mysterious of all early medieval British peoples. The culture which didn't survive. The Picts. Let's take a look. This is BURGHEAD, jutting out of the northern coast of Moray. Today, it looks like any other Scottish town. But once, 1500 years ago, this was a thriving centre of power. A vast citadel once stood here, surrounded by housing and farmland. And until this year, this was the largest Pictish stronghold ever discovered. Plenty of carvings, weapons, day-to-day items have been found here, giving archaeologists tantalising clues to the pre-Christian native people who once lived here, during the shadowy centuries at the end of the Classical Age, ever seeming just out of reach due to the lack of written sources. Though, in recent years, archaeology, as well as a reinterpretation of much earlier written sources, can help us arrive at a basic account of who these people were. Likely forged in the fires of Roman invasion during the 3rd and 4th centuries, ranging far and wide to the north of the Antonine frontier, in attempts to subdue the wild people who lived there. Just like on the Rhine and Danube frontiers, confederacies of so-called barbarian people began to come together, inspired and influenced by the Roman world on their doorstep, and spurred on by advances in technology and organisation. And as Roman power waned, their power grew. Finally, in the 5th century, when Rome pulled out of Britain altogether, these northern peoples, known as the Picts, likely a pejorative term meaning painted men to describe the uncivilized Britons, as opposed to the more Romanized southern Britons, went south to capitalize on the weakness of the southerners. They would be in the driving seat of their own destinies for centuries to come. Yet, with the arrival of the Picts, almost all written sources disappear. And archaeological evidence, when compared to other ages in history, both before and after, remains exceptionally rare. It's only in the 7th and 8th centuries, however, with the coming of Christianity to the island, and the advent of such writers as the Venerable Bede, that we begin to get proper historical accounts. Bede, often describing a time far before his own, names the Picts as one of the major peoples of Britain, alongside the Anglo-Saxons, the Britons, and the Scots or Irish. By this time, the Picts, like most people in Britain, had by and large converted to Christianity. Though of course, older traditions remained too. By the 10th century, as a unique identity, the Picts had mostly disappeared, having been subsumed into Gaelic culture in the fires of Viking invasion. Now, in 2020, one long-lost fortress in Aberdeenshire, not too far from BURGHEAD, long thought to have been Bronze Age or Iron Age in origin, has been revealed not only to be in fact Pictish, dating to the 5th and 6th centuries, with origins perhaps as early as the 3rd century, but it dwarfs not only BURGHEAD in size, but every other post-Roman fortress in Britain, and many on the continent too. For the rampart around this settlement encloses an area of 17 acres. To put that into perspective, BURGHEAD is 5, the famous Tintagel in Cornwall is 5, and even CADBURY Castle, one of the most famous sites in Britain, often argued as a potential site for King Arthur's Camelot, is 7 acres. Therefore, the newly discovered fort at Tappernothe may well be one of the largest post-Roman settlements in the whole of Europe. As many as 800 houses all over the site suggest a potential population of as many as 4,000 people. In Britain, a metropolis for the time. A settlement population once thought to have only been achieved in Scotland by the 12th century. Today, just a few hundred people live here. More research needs to be done, of course, especially to date more of the huts and buildings, as there are so many of them. But so far, it does look like this was a huge regional centre of power, from the late Roman Iron Age well into the 6th and potentially 7th centuries. A new era of transition, as Christianity takes hold and new invaders, the Anglo-Saxons, begin marching north. Though it's important to remember that this was one kingdom amongst many, perhaps a main centre of Pictish power. Though we'll never know the names of the kings who held sway here, archaeology can reveal much about the lifestyle and society of these people at the time of such famous rulers as Bridie mac Billy, and the eventual fate of this enigmatic culture. This is a brand new discovery, the implications of which probably won't be known for years to come. Watch this space. Hello there, thank you for watching this video. I really hope that you're enjoying all the history videos on this channel. If you liked it, there are loads more channels you can go and look at. I run a channel called History Time, where you can watch full-length documentaries on loads of different topics. Ancient history, Vikings, Crusades, you name it. My brother runs another history channel called Voices of the Past. It's primary sources from history, word for word, recreated for a modern audience. And we've also got a new channel called History of the Earth, where we're looking at, well, how all this around me came into being. Go check them all out. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.